Camping is a great way for the whole family to bond together and appreciate nature at the same time. This is the case for the Miller family. They always looked forward to their camping weekends. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video with your friends. The Miller family had a usual campsite to go to at this time. They decided to try something new. Little did they know that this small change will lead them to disaster. And it all started with a mysterious bag in the river. Jason Miller, the head of the family, heard about a new camping site from his friend at work. His friend showed pictures from his camping trip, and Jason immediately fell in love with the forested area and river. Jason could picture his wife and 2 boys enjoying the campsite. They could go for hikes, and the river meant they can take their canoe along. Jason was excited to start planning their family weekend together. But Jason's colleague had a warning. Although the campsite was a beauty during the day, it was different at night. During his stay there, he could hear strange noises at night. He couldn't tell what it was. Jason decided to omit this warning when he tells his family about the new campsite. He was worried that his wife, Macy, would be against going there if she knew about the strange sounds. After all, it may not be so bad since his colleague was able to go home safely. It was a long drive to the campsite. When the Miller family finally arrived, it was already dark. They were greeted and welcomed by Frank, the campsite owner, who had been waiting for them. Frank was glad they were able to arrive safely. Frank's cabin was not far, and he showed them where they can park their car and set up. The whole family was tired from the drive, so they decided to sleep in the car for now and set up everything in the morning. That night, Jason tried to stay up late, with his colleague's warnings in mind. He was waiting for the strange noises his colleague warned him about, but he heard nothing that night, and eventually he fell asleep. The next morning, Jason and Macy woke up early to set up their tent. They then began to prepare breakfast, knowing their sons usually have a big appetite in the morning. When their kids woke up, a small feast was ready. Jason's youngest son, Sebastian, immediately went to the river. He then excitedly called Jason's attention. He had spotted something in the water. There was a brown or orange bag floating in the river, and Sebastian wanted to get it. But the bag was all the way out in the river, and the canoes were not ready yet, and there were more important things to do. Jason promised Sebastian that they could get the bag the next day if it was still there. That day, the plan was to go on a hike, so Macy packed a picnic bag to take with them. When the entire family got back to the camp from their hike, Sebastian immediately looked at the river. The bag was still there, floating on the surface. At that point, Jason was also curious about the bag, but it was about to get dark. It would be hard to navigate the river at night, so they really had to retrieve the bag the next morning. The entire family agreed and went on to prepare dinner. That night, the Millers woke up in the middle of the night. There were strange sounds in the area, and just as Jason's colleague said, it was very hard to determine what the sound was. It was very hard to describe. The whole family was wondering what was causing the strange noise. As the noise got louder, the kids were starting to get scared. Macy tried to calm them down and tried to distract them from the strange sound by telling a story. Jason took his flashlight and told everyone he would go out to investigate. But when he stepped out of the tent, he could not see anything out of the ordinary. Everything seemed normal. Nothing has been touched. The sound came up again. Jason tried to follow the sound. It seemed like it was coming from the river. He shone his flashlight at the waters, but it was too dark to make anything out, and there was no way he was going into the river at the dead of the night. Jason was starting to regret ignoring his colleague's warning. If there was anything out there that could endanger his family, he would never forgive himself for bringing them there. He had been warned, and he chose to ignore those warnings. The sounds were a bit spooky, but eventually they stopped. Jason returned to the tent, and the family was able to go back to sleep eventually. Jason decided that he would go out to the water first thing in the morning to investigate. Jason woke up early that morning. As he prepared the canoe, Macy woke up. She was wondering why Jason was up before sunrise. Jason told her that he planned to go into the river and search for the bag Sebastian was so curious about. Considering the strange noises last night, Jason thinks it is safer that he retrieves the bag without the kids. He told her the strange noise last night was coming from the river. Macy immediately agreed, but she also decided that she wanted to join him. Jason would prefer that Macy stay behind, but he also knew that he would need the help. The current in the river was strong that morning. The sun was not up yet, and it was quite dark. They would do a quicker job if they went together. The kids were still asleep, so they could probably retrieve the bag and get back before they woke up. They may even have time to prepare breakfast. Jason and Macy hopped into the canoes and started to paddle. When they were out in the river, they heard the strange noise once more. It was softer this time. Macy instantly tensed up and wanted to go back to the kids, but they were getting close to where the bag has drifted. Jason told her they were close to the bag and assured her that they would head back right away once he gets the bag. They had to paddle upstream a bit before Macy was able to grab the bag and bring it to the canoe. Macy screamed when they heard the strange noise again. This time, it was louder. Whatever was making the noise was very close. Jason tried to be more alert as he looked around. He waited for the noise to start again. They then realized that the strange noise was coming from the waterproof bag they retrieved from the river. Jason and Macy looked at each other, surprised. What could be in the bag? Was it something alive? Jason and Macy agreed that it was best to open the bag when they get back to the campsite. The bag continued making a strange noise as they paddled back into camp. Jason carried it away from the tent so that the kids won't wake up. Once they were a good distance from the tent, Jason put the bag on the ground and opened it carefully. Macy started screaming when she saw what was inside. Jason took a look and saw a Bluetooth speaker in the bag. He looked back at Macy, asking her why was she screaming. Macy pointed at the bag and told him in a shaking voice that there was something else. Jason took out the speaker to get a better look. Inside the bag was a terrifying clown mask. What does all of this mean? The strange noise was there again, and sure enough, it was coming from the Bluetooth speaker. Whoever was making the sound had to be close. Was someone watching them? But what for? Jason closed the bag immediately as he saw the kids get out of the tent. Macy's screaming probably woke them up. Macy ran to them and tried to keep the boys from looking inside the bag. At that moment, Frank also came running towards them. He said he heard screams from the cabin and wanted to make sure that they were okay. After all, they were the only campers around that weekend. Jason and Macy then told Frank about the strange noises and how they found the bag with the strange contents in it. But instead of being alarmed, the campsite owners started laughing out loud. The Millers could not understand and waited for an explanation. It turned out that the waterproof bag belonged to Frank. He said that everything was a prank that he loved to do every time visitors were in the area. The campsite owner would observe the campers first to see if they would be able to appreciate a prank or not. When he saw the Millers, he thought that this was a family that loved to have fun, and it looked like they could handle a good prank. While Jason and Macy were still in shock, their kids were laughing. The idea that their parents had been pranked made them happy. Soon, their laughing was getting contagious, and everyone ended up laughing too.